To the Mighty Blues, welcome back today to another live stream. It is going to be the live game review to our 1-0 defeat yesterday against Tottenham Hotspur at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium. Everton putting in a real poor performance yesterday. I labelled it as embarrassing in my instant match reaction, and in regards to the effort and the passion and the fight, or the lack of everything that I've just said showed in the game, I'm going to say it still is embarrassing, because you know what, yesterday was a game that we really could have gone out there and we really could have won, and it would have meant a lot to the club if we would have won it. Not only would it have put us above Tottenham and put us in an even better position in regards to finishing within the top sort of 7 or 8 and in a European place, but it would also have been that victory that we're so looking for constantly every single year, away to one of these sides where we notoriously don't do well at. And Tottenham weren't great yesterday. They really weren't. I thought it was a poor game of football, to be perfectly honest. Throughout it was flat. There wasn't much in it. Neither team had many clear-cut opportunities. The goal obviously was a deflected goal, but Everton just outdone ourselves once again and proved that Carlo Ancelotti has come in and done fantastically well with this squad, and I think we're something like 6th or 7th in the form table since he's joined the football club, and he's done, he's turned it around fantastically, considering under Marco Silva there was, some fans who were worried about whether or not we'd be in a relegation fight. Considering we're even talking about a push for Europe now is quite fantastic from Carlo Ancelotti. However, yesterday showed that even with Carlo Ancelotti, he's not a magician. It's still the same set of players as Marco Silva had, and they're simply just not good enough. And the lack of fight, the lack of desire, the lack of urgency, the lack of energy that was showed yesterday was really quite frustrating. And like I said, in a game where we were playing against the Tottenham side, who aren't fantastic and weren't fantastic yesterday. I don't mind Everton getting beat. I don't mind Everton getting turned over, even if it's 3 or 4-0 by a side who are much better than us, as long as we turn up and we give it 110%. One thing that I absolutely can't stand is when Everton don't turn up, or when Everton come into a game and we lose a game, when if we'd have given it 110% and if we'd have put a bit more effort in, we could have probably won the game, if not definitely come out of the game with something. You only have to look at the stats. Anthony Gordon, our most creative player, created 2 chances in the game. He was on for the entirety of the second half. Within 10 or 15 minutes, he was our man of the match. 2 chances created. The rest of the midfield had 1 chance created between the lot of them. It's embarrassing. It really was embarrassing. And again, we've sat here on numerous occasions, time and time again, and spoke about the need for a central midfielder in the summer. And at first, I was sitting here thinking, right, okay, we definitely need a central midfielder this summer, maybe even 2. Now, I think we need an entire new midfield. I honestly... we cannot go into next season with that midfield. It just isn't good enough. There's not enough quality in it. There's not enough urgency in it. There's not enough desire in it. It just isn't good enough. And Carlo Ancelotti, put the starting 11 out yesterday, and I think when it was put out, a lot of fans were a little bit sceptical about the midfield. But I said in my instant match reaction, I feel for Carlo Ancelotti because he hasn't got many options. There's clearly a reason as to why Benny Beningame isn't starting games of football. There's clearly a reason as to why some of the younger players haven't been brought in. Now, whether that's because they're not ready, whether that's because they're not good enough, I don't know. But there's clearly a reason as to why they are not being put in that team ahead of your likes of Gylfi Sigurdsson and Andre Gomez, who have again put in another absolute dismal display yesterday. And I do feel for Carlo Ancelotti because, again, on Thursday against Southampton, on Sunday against Wolves, and for the remaining 5 or 6 games of the season, we're going to see a similar midfield every single time we play, because we haven't got any other options. And that's why it's so imperative that we go out this summer and we bring midfielders into this football club, centre midfielders, a right winger and a left winger, because we just don't have any quality in that position of the pitch. And ultimately, midfield is where football games are won and lost. We've had a good solid defence for a lot of this season, and even since the Premier League returned after the suspension, the defence has been quite solid. We've had a solid front 2. Okay, they haven't really got going since the return of the Premier League, but prior to the Premier League suspension, Dominic Calvert-Lewin was in fantastic form, Richarlison in really good form. But that midfield has just been a constant issue all season. It's been absolutely atrocious. And again, we're coming into football games and you're sort of thinking, we're not going to dominate this game. And you'll get away with that on numerous occasions. You'll get away with that against your likes of, your Norwich. You'll get away with that maybe against the Leicester. You might get away with it against the sides that are struggling and the sides that don't really have that quality. Not saying that Leicester don't, but sides like Norwich and various other sides in the Premier League, you'll get away with our midfield not turning up and not having a great game, because our quality up front and our tightness in defence will be enough to get us through that game, and will be enough to see us either win it or get something out of it. But when you come up against the sides that have got that little bit of quality, that have got that little bit of urgency, all they have to do is outplay it in the midfield, and that's very, very easy to do against Everton, and they've ultimately won the game. That wasn't a great Spurs side yesterday, I'll reiterate. I'm more frustrated at the fact that we turned up against one of the poorest Tottenham sides I've seen in years, and we didn't give them any trouble whatsoever. We had one clear-cut chance in the game that I can remember, and that was Richarlison, where he shot wide. Moise Keane had an opportunity where it went into the keeper's glove, but I'm not even going to count that. It was dreadful, it was flat. It wasn't a great game of football, to be perfectly honest with you. If you watched it on Sky and you heard Gary Neville's commentary, you'll pretty much have agreed with near enough everything Gary Neville said. I think he echoed a lot of Evertonians' concerns and a lot of Evertonians' frustrations yesterday, is the fact that we didn't turn up. We simply didn't turn up. There was no desire, there was no effort, there was no fight, there was no passion, and we know that. Certainly when we're talking about this midfield, there is no energy in the midfield, there's no urgency, there's no, simply the players cannot get about the pitch, they cannot do it. We've seen Andre Gomez and Gylfi Sigurdsson last season. They were good. They had decent seasons, the pair of them, and that was solely because they had a player next to them in a Adesanya Gueye who could get about the pitch, who could do the dirty work, who could run around, who'd throw the tackles in, who'd run around consistently, and that allowed Andre Gomez to play his neat little, football, get the ball down, use his body, nice little touches, nice little passes that allowed Gylfi Sigurdsson to only focus on going forward. When you ask Gylfi Sigurdsson and Andre Gomez to sit in a centre midfield pairing and do the running around as well as the neat little stuff, they simply can't do it, and they're simply not good enough at doing it, and that's why it's absolutely imperative that we bring in midfielders in the summer. I said it in the instant match reaction, and I'll echo it again. I don't want to see us linked with another centre half. I don't want to see us linked with another striker. I don't want to see us linked with another goalkeeper. The next time I see Everton, odds on to spend 30 million or 35 million on Gabriel, I'll be massively, massively unhappy, because we need to be spending 35 million on that centre midfield. You've got a player in Ibrahim Sangare who was going for around about 12 million, who would absolutely transform our team. We need to be focusing on those positions, because it simply wasn't good enough. And again, going into the game yesterday, listen, I think I don't think we started the game all that badly, and by started I mean the first 5 or 10 minutes, and by all that badly I mean we were doing okay. When we had the ball, we done okay with it. We were trying to create, we were passing it around. But, even prior to the Tottenham goal, it only took about 5 or 10 or 15 minutes for Everton to really look like we weren't going to do anything in that game. And again, like I said, we could have played 2, 3, 4 hours. We could have still been playing now and we wouldn't have scored, because we didn't ever look like creating any clear-cut opportunities. We didn't ever look like we were going to hurt Tottenham Hotspur. And like you said, we started to see that within the first 10 or 15 minutes or so. We started okay, but then it looked like we were running out of ideas. Players weren't getting about the pitch. We weren't covering positions. We weren't getting to the ball. We were shitting away from from 50-50 challenges. We weren't interested. We were waiting for the ball to drop and for the Tottenham player to pick it up and run with it before we made any effort to get towards it. And all of that happened within that midfield. Again, I don't just want to go solely in on the midfield and blame it, completely, but ultimately it was the fault as to why we lost the game of football yesterday. I refuse, and I've seen a few people, not a lot, but I've seen a few people, blame Carlo Ancelotti for yesterday's performance and maybe doubt Carlo Ancelotti's tactics and team selection. I refuse, and this is just my opinion, everybody's allowed their own opinion, I refuse to sit here and blame Carlo Ancelotti for any of that yesterday, because what I saw yesterday was a poor Everton side and a poor Tottenham side playing a game of football. The difference being a deflected goal which was going miles wide if it didn't come off Michael Keane, an own goal. However, I watched an Everton side for 65 minutes of a game not look like we wanted to get back in it, not look like we wanted to equalise, not look daft. Like I said, the only players that looked moderately interested were Richarlison, maybe Dominic Calvert-Lewin, and then Yerry Mina and Anthony Gordon coming off the bench. Everybody else looked like they could not give a fuck. We were passing the ball around on the 60th, 70th minute as if we were winning 3-0, passing it round the defence, belting it round the midfield, back and forth, as if we were winning 3-0. Tottenham offered very little. In fact, they offered nothing. The goal come from sheer luck. but I'm not going to sit here and say we were unlucky yesterday. You know, we didn't deserve to lose that game, and maybe Carlo has to come into question. Carlo Ancelotti does not come into question for that performance yesterday. Those players should have been more than good enough to at least give 110%. Like I said, I haven't got no massive issue with Everton having players that aren't the best quality players in the world or haven't necessarily got all the talent. My biggest issue is if you don't try at 110%, and I watched 11 near enough men running around that pitch yesterday not giving it 110%, and I don't care how talented you are. I don't care if you're Gylfi Sigurdsson and you can hit a ball from 45 yards and score a winner. I don't care if you're Andre Gomez who's got a nice haircut and passes it round nice. I don't care if you're Tom Davis and you're a local lad. If you're not giving it 110%, fuck off. Get out the team. I haven't got time for it. And again, like I said, it was flat yesterday. Anyway, getting back into the game, we're getting a little bit sidetracked. First 10 or 15 minutes, like I said, we looked okay. Tottenham didn't really threat much. Neither did we, to be fair, but you know, we were still in the game, and it was at that point, I think, as a fan, you're sitting there thinking, right, okay, all as we need now is Carlo Ancelotti within the first water break to you know, lift the lads a little bit, to tell them, come on, these aren't that great, you don't need to back off them, you don't need to be scared of them, you don't need to shit out of 50-50 challenges, get into them, they're not that great, they haven't got much going forward, defensively they're really shaky. That's been proven over the last, 2 weeks. The defeat to Sheffield United proved how shaky they are defensively. The midfield isn't very dominant. Get involved in them. It was up to Everton yesterday to take that game by the scruff of the neck. It was up to Everton yesterday to say, you know what, we want this more than you do. We want to win this game of football. And if we'd have taken that approach, if we'd have turned up, if those players had turned up and went, you know what, we want this game more than you do, we're taking this game by the scruff of the neck, we'd have won that yesterday. And I honestly believe we'd have won that comfortably, 3-1, 4-1, something like that, because Tottenham didn't look interested whatsoever. They really didn't. But we didn't adopt that mentality. We didn't adopt that attitude. And Carlo Ancelotti come out at the end of the game and said the mentality needs to change, and he's 100% spot on. The mentality at this football club within those players needs to change, because not only did we lose that game when we went 1-0 down, we'd lost that game before we started, and you could tell that by the performance. The players were scared, they were backing off challenges. Tottenham are a very physical side and a very dirty side, I'll have it known. They kick, they hit, they throw their body in the way. They've got players that throw in little fouls here and there. That Lo Celso, all game he was fouling, kicking players up in the air. They had 4 players on Richarlison every time he got the ball. They were getting involved, they were nipping at our ankles, and we simply didn't want it. We didn't want the fight, we didn't want the passion, we didn't want the performance. We backed off, and that is a mentality issue, because that is Everton turning up to a game and losing that game before we've even the first whistle's even been blown. And it's even more frustrating in games where you think, well, if we didn't have that mentality, if the mentality was different, if we turned up and just thought, you know what, we can beat these aren't that good, we'd have won the game comfortably. And then there wouldn't even be any talk about, how we've gone however many years without winning at one of these stadiums or whatever. But, it's not the case. And again, you cannot blame Carlo Ancelotti for that. He's been here 6 months, and he will change the mentality of this football club, and he'll change it by either by forcing the current playing staff to change their mentality, or fucking them off and bringing new playing staff in who have already got that mentality, that winner's mentality instilled into them. If you're enjoying the scene, by the way, so far, please do hit that like button, share it out, let's get as many people in here as possible. But anyway, like I said, we started okay, and then we go 1-0 down, a freak incident really. Tottenham grew into the game a little bit more. They started to control the ball in the midfield, which we all knew was going to happen. They were first to every ball. They were playing it forward. They were, creating a couple of decent sort of passes of play. They weren't fantastic. It wasn't anything special, but it was nice little passes of play, because again, our midfield was pretty much absent. It was ghostly. There may as well have not been a midfield there. I'd rather have had 6 defenders and 4 attackers, or vice versa, because it was just absent. And they're creating a couple of opportunities. They go close. Jordan Pickford makes a mad sort of save situation where initially you're thinking, what are you doing? But on second look, it looks like he's trying to prevent a corner from Luka Dean. They then get an opportunity. They play it in the box. Lo Celso takes a touch. He hits it. The ball's going about 6 miles wide, and it comes off Michael Keane, who's coming back into the play to try and defend it. And it's unlucky. It deflects off Michael Keane. It goes in, and it was going that far wide. It goes down as an own goal. And at that point, as an Evertonian, you're not feeling brilliant, because again, we don't have, and I think it's become quite evident, the players don't have this mentality of, right, okay, let's pick our heads back up, let's go again, we can win this game, these aren't that great. We've gotten better, don't get me wrong, because our heads would have dropped against any side in the Premier League, whereas since Carlo Ancelotti's come in, we've seen it against Norwich, we've seen it against Newcastle away from, not Norwich, Watford, we've seen it against Newcastle away from home, where we've picked our heads up, but still against these sides in these massive stadiums with, these histories and the teams that we haven't beaten for a long time, our heads still drop. And that was at the point yesterday. They scored just before the water break, so they literally put the ball in the back of the net. Like I said, it was a freak goal. It was a freak incident. It come off Michael Keane. It's very, very unlucky. That was the point then where we stepped it up. We went into the water break, and I can't remember seeing an Everton player take a drink of water. I think it was purely a tactical break, and I believe Carlo Ancelotti said to the players, right, okay, go again, it's 0-0, we need to win this game, pick your heads up, go again, we need to go again constantly, and he just didn't. Again, there was no urgency, there was no desire, there was no fight, there was no intensity. It was just a complete lack of everything, and it wasn't good enough. It really, really wasn't good enough. It was a shocking game of football to watch because Spurs had nothing in the game, but from an Everton fan's point of view, Gary Neville felt like the most frustrated Everton fan last night. Situations like Jordan Pickford hitting it up in the last 2 minutes to Bernard. every single Everton player is in the Tottenham half, and 5 or 6 Everton players in the Tottenham box, and he's hitting it towards Bernard, who's about 4 foot, to try and head it down. Tottenham player easily easily gets rid of it. Like I said, 60, 70 minutes, we're passing the ball around the midfield, we're passing the ball around the defensive, we're 3-0 up. It's so lackadaisical, it's so mind-blowing to think that we just have no urgency in situations like that against sides that we really could have beat. It's almost like the players adopt this, well, if we get beat 1-0 against these, it's not that bad of a result because they're an okay team, whereas it was a shocking result. It really, really was. Like I said, we go 1-0 down to the water break. Nothing much happens in regards to Everton between that point and half-time. A pretty abysmal second half to the first half, if you like. We don't create anything again. Tottenham start to take control of the game, and I think Tottenham grow in confidence despite the fact they didn't have a lot of quality, despite the fact they didn't have a lot of opportunities. I think their confidence grew in knowing that we were absolutely shit scared and that we didn't want any of the ball, we didn't want any of the possession, we didn't want to create anything, we were backing out of 50-50 challenges, we didn't look interested, and I think that's where their confidence sort of grew. We go into half time again. A pretty dreadful first half performance. Carlo Ancelotti makes a change. Anthony Gordon comes on for, I can't even remember who went off. Was it Iwobi went off? Whoever it was, they had an absolutely dreadful first half. Anthony Gordon comes on and changes the game in regards to the intensity. He looked like, again, like I said, other than maybe Richarlison, who was giving it a little bit of an effort and who was having a go, but it's very hard for one player up top to change a game when the rest of your team is looking very uninterested. Anthony Gordon come on, he was bringing the play forward, he had a shot within the first 5 or 10 minutes of him coming on, his passing was good, he was utilising it, he was bringing us forward. Yerry Mina done the same when he come on, bringing the play forward, kicking it out of defence and chasing the ball and trying to push the team forward. Anthony Gordon, like we mentioned, our most creative player yesterday, come on, created 2 chances, which was more than any of the other midfield done in the entire game, and was Gylfi Sigurdsson's name mentioned at all in that midfield other than Gary Neville calling him out for backing out of a 50-50? No. Was Andre Gomez's name other than for criticism? No. Tom Davies, poor. Iwobi, poor. It's not good enough. It really, really isn't good enough, and I fear massively for any game we go into. We're playing Southampton on Thursday, and they're a team in good form. They've lost 1 game since the return of the Premier League, and they've won 3. Really, really good result last time out against Manchester City. A side with a lot of attacking quality, a side with players in there that we know can harm us, we know can hurt us. If Southampton had to watch that game yesterday, they'll be thinking, right, okay, all we have to do is put our foot on the ball in the midfield and console it, and we've won the game practically, because the Everton players do not want the ball within the midfield. They won't chase for it, they won't break you down, there's no urgency, there's no intensity. I think we showed urgency maybe once in yesterday's game, and that was coming out from a corner where we chased the ball. Once, and that was pretty much it. For the rest of the game, it was flat, and like I said, it was always going to be the problem. It was always going to be the issue coming back into the return of the Premier League. We've got far too many midfielders who do the same job. It reminds me a little bit of when Ronald Koeman come in and bought like 5 or 6 central midfielders who just done the same job. That's what we've got now. We've got central midfielders who are okay on the ball, Gylfi Sigurdsson can hit a ball every now and then, but hasn't proved that consistently. Andre Gomes has got an okay passing range and has, fancy feet on the ball. Tom Davies has got fancy feet on the ball, but none of them can get about the pitch. None of them run round. None of them show like they're arsed. And I don't know whether it's a lack of fight and it's a lack of them caring, or whether they just simply cannot do it. They just simply haven't got the energy. They simply haven't got the urgency to do it. I was watching clips of Gylfi Sigurdsson last season earlier on today, and he's getting about the pitch. He's chasing balls down. He's seeing where the ball's going to go. He's putting himself in dangerous areas. He's moving about. He's using his agency. He's coming off the pitch sweating absolute bollocks, whereas you watch him now and he's just waltzing around. If he hasn't got the ball, he's jogging, he's standing still in positions, he's pointing to other players. He doesn't look arsed. And like I said at the start of the live stream, if you're not arsed, fuck off. I don't want you at the football club. But anyway, we come out in the second half. Like I said, Anthony Gordon comes on. We see him a little bit better in regards to Gordon creating opportunities and pushing the team forward. Like I said, he has a shot within the first 5 or 10 minutes. Doesn't really harm the keeper much. It's ultimately it's an easy save for the keeper in the end, but he's doing something. He's showing that he wants to create opportunities. He's showing he wants to get forward. He's showing he wants to to get back into the game. Carlo Ancelotti then done his best to change the game, bringing the likes of Yerry Mina on, Moise Kean, Djibril Sidibe, Yerry Mina, Bernard. All didn't have much effect. Like I said, the best out of them, other than Anthony Gordon, probably was Yerry Mina, because he was trying to bring the ball forward. He was trying to create. He even though he come on in that defensive position for Mason Holgate, he looked like he really wanted to get back into the game. The rest of them, I really can't say much for. Moise Kean done okay, looked a little bit more composed, to be fair to him, other than the sort of rash performances that we may be used to seeing out of Moise Kean. He looked like he calmed down a little bit. He looked like he'd settled a little bit, and I can't really fault him for that. Bernard, again, dreadful. If Bernard keeps putting in these type of performances, I'd sell him in the summer, because he's just not impacting games. He's not impacting games when he starts. He's not impacting games when he comes off the bench, and again, he didn't do that yesterday. And Sidibe Sidibe didn't really have much to do either. But that was pretty much the story of the game for Everton. We concede a sloppy goal, and in a moment where we should pick ourselves up, the players should say, hang on, that's a really unlucky goal to concede. That it's deflected off Michael Keane. It's going nowhere near the goal. These aren't that great. These haven't got an awful lot going forward. They're not creating an awful lot. Let's pick ourselves up. Let's get at them. Let's fight. Let's show some passion. Let's want it more than they do, and we'll get something out of this game. They didn't. They didn't want it at all. They waltzed around and they looked like they thought, you know what, I'll take my paycheck and I'll go home and that's it. And quite frankly, that's not acceptable for me. That's not good enough. And in regards to the team in the midfield, Gylfi Sigurdsson, Andre Gomes and Tom Davies simply cannot play in the same midfield. They cannot play. They're not good enough to play in the same midfield whatsoever. And Alex Iwobi isn't good enough to play in that midfield starting. If Alex Iwobi's going to play, he needs to play to his best position, which I honestly believe is sort of centre attacking midfield. He cannot play on the wing. Bernard, not good enough. Tom Davies, not good enough. Again, how many times do we sit here and say, so-and-so's not good enough, this player's not good enough, that player's not good enough, but it's true. It really is true. I sat here before yesterday's game and I thought, right, okay, as a matter of urgency, we need a central defensive midfielder and an attacking creative midfielder. That is nailed on before the game. And now sit here and say we need the right mid and the left mid as well as a matter of urgency. I'm happy to say that Anthony Gordon can be involved a lot more next season, but I'm not confident in saying that he'll be ready to play week in, week out, which means we need a left-sided midfielder. Because it was an abysmal performance yesterday, and there's not much more I can say other than that. We offered very little, and Tottenham were very, very happy to just walk around because they know they're not in a great run of form. They had a little bit of a spat between Lloris and Son at half-time. They come off the back of a defeat, and they massively needed that win yesterday. They massively needed that win for their hopes for Europe, and they thought, right, okay, if we can do the bare minimum and get away with a win, then, we'll do that, and that's all they done yesterday. And that's, for me, the most frustrating thing to take out of yesterday's game is that we didn't come up against a fantastic side. We weren't bossed off the park. They didn't batter us. They didn't have a lot of opportunities. We come up against an average Tottenham side, and we just didn't want the game. And again, that's dreadful for me. That really is dreadful. If you're enjoying the scene, by the way, please do hit that like button. It does only take a second. If you're new to the channel, don't forget to subscribe as well. We will be back tomorrow at 12 p.m. Mid-afternoon with the game preview to the Southampton game on Thursday, of course, and then we'll have an opposition preview from Dan from the Saints View at around about 5 o'clock tomorrow, so look out for those. They'll both be videos. let's get into the live comments then. Sustainable Shooter says, Spurs fan here, surprised at Everton yesterday, thought you'd batter us because we are great and don't have a style of play. There you go, exactly, and we should have battered you. We really should have battered you. We should have come out, we should have wanted it more, we should have put in a little bit more effort, we should have showed we cared a little bit more, but we didn't. And again, you know, some people might blame Carlo Ancelotti for that, for not being able to rile the players up, but I sit here and honestly say, in my opinion, you know, Carlo Ancelotti is not a magician, and some of these players just can't be helped. And again, you know, I really do think it's a massive summer for Carlo Ancelotti and a massive summer for Marcel Brands. We are in need of 4 or 5 midfield players as a necessity. Forget your centre-halves, I'm not arsed. I do not care whatsoever in the slightest about Gabriel or about Todibo. I don't want them until we've signed midfield players, because that is an absolute necessity. You know, Mason Allgate, Yerry Mina and Michael Keane are good enough for now. Jordan Pickford, whether you like him or not, is good enough for now. Tom Davies, Andre Gomez, Gylfi Sigurdsson, Fabian Delph, Alex Iwobi in that midfield together are not good enough. Maybe separately in certain circumstances, for example, an Andre Gomez, if he's got to play next to him who can run about, or a Gylfi Sigurdsson if he's allowed a little bit higher up the pitch, but certainly not together. Dominic says, everybody has an off game, but last night just showed you how far we are actually off the top 6, and Everton are going to go and spend this summer, because I actually don't think we will. We need to, mate. We need to. If we don't, then we're in shit creek for next season. We really are. Jonathan says, we need a new midfield, need a new right winger and right back. Again, right back, Sancho-Dibe for 5 million, because again, I'm focused purely on midfield. Sonny says, feel sorry for Dom and Richie yesterday. Richie was fouled all over the place and Dom didn't get the service he needs to thrive. Exactly, and you know, that's why Dom, there was a little bit of criticism for Dominic Calvert-Lewin yesterday, and to be fair, it's warranted as well, you know, and that was that, you know, Dom was coming out a little bit too much. He wasn't in the right positions because he was dragging himself out to win the ball, and his back was facing goal, and he wasn't in the areas where we needed him to be. And that's right, he wasn't in the areas where we needed him to be, and I think the reason for that is because Dominic Calvert-Lewin feels in games that he needs to create his own service and that he needs to create for other players, and that's because he knows, as well as the rest of us know, there isn't enough creativity in that team. There simply isn't. The midfield has got no creativity whatsoever. Name a creative player in that midfield this season for Everton. There isn't anybody whatsoever. And you know, again, I don't want to have too much of a go at Dom, because it's his effort, it's him taking himself out of the position to try and pick the ball up, to try and create something, to try and work hard, but in doing that, he drags himself out of the position that he needs to be in, and ultimately he finds himself on the edge of the box with the ball to cross it in, and nobody in the middle, because Gylfi Sigurdsson isn't making that bollock busting run into the middle, because he's not arsed. You know, Richarlison is usually in a similar situation to Dominic Calvert-Lewin, coming out, trying to win the ball in the midfield, trying to create something. And again, like I said, utterly embarrassing performance from the midfield yesterday. James says, alright, Cam lad, midfielders are a must, mate. I don't know where to start on the match. Poor, hard to watch. It was hard to watch, and again, it was hard to watch because it was a very winnable game, and we didn't capitalise on Spurs being quite poor. To be honest with you, Spurs had very little. It was probably one of the easiest wins Spurs will have this season in one of the poorest games they've played. They'll have been, you know, rubbing their hands together yesterday. I didn't watch any Spurs fans talking about the game afterwards, but they'd have been rubbing their hands together with that, because they thought we were dreadful today and we've still come away with the win. You know, like I said, Gary Neville got it spot on yesterday. You know, there needs to be a massive mentality change at Everton Football Club. There's an inferiority complex, massively, in these players turning up to games and thinking we're not good enough to beat this team, or we shouldn't be beating these type of teams. We should be beating these type of teams. We should have beat Spurs yesterday. We've got the quality. We've got the, you know, the talent, certainly up front and in the defence. Questionable in the midfield. But we just don't believe. And again, like I said, this is a massive summer for both the manager and the director of football. Sonny says, it baffles me how we can beat a team who's challenging for the Champions League, but we can't beat the worst Spurs team in ages. Exactly. Eugene says, report Everton won 25 million Spaniard after he rejects free offers. I'm not too sure who that is. Jonathan says, if the board are being truthful in their words, they want Champions League football, give Collar the backing in the summer and improve the team. Spot on. Sonny says, completely agree. Jonathan Hernandez says, I should have known that Everton were going to play like that. Every time we have it all to play for, they never turn up. Should be used, but naively let myself get too excited. There you go, should be used to it, sorry. Underground says Everton need wingers. We do, spot on. The wingers aren't good enough whatsoever. Jonathan says need at least 2 midfielders. Hopefully Gbamin comes back, need a right back, a right wing and a centre back. In regards to Gbamin, I'm not holding anything out for Jean-Philippe Gbamin. I feel massively sorry for Jean-Philippe Gbamin, I do, because obviously, listen, it's not his fault that, you know, he's picked up injuries. It's not his fault that, you know, he's had to have been kept out of the team because ultimately bad injuries. However, I'm not holding anything out for Jean-Philippe Gbamin. I'm really, really not. We need to replace Jean-Philippe Gbamin as much as we need to replace Gylfi Sigurdsson, as much as we need to replace Tom Davies and Fabian Delph, because ultimately, Jean-Philippe Gbamin should be told, you know, work your ass off, make sure you're not overstretching yourself, make sure you're not overdoing it, and get back to fitness. There shouldn't be a pressure on Jean-Philippe Gbamin to get back into this team, because we desperately need an active, you know, midfielder who's got the agency and got the capability to run round and got the fight and got the stamina to and the legs to do it. There shouldn't be a pressure on Jean-Philippe Gbamin to do that. We should bring in a player in either Ibrahim Sangare, Boubakary Samare, a player of that ilk who is good enough to step in and do that, and then Jean-Philippe Gbamin's job upon returning from injury should be to fight his way back into the team ahead of whoever the player that comes in is. I'm not holding any hopes on Jean-Philippe Gbamin because, you know, as much as it's not his fault, we simply cannot sit here and say it's okay, you know, Jean-Philippe Gbamin will return and he'll step in and he'll be the midfielder we need, because there's not the reliability there. There's zero reliability in regards to Jean-Philippe Gbamin, and although that's not his fault, or although that might be a little bit harsh, it's the reality of the situation, it's the truth. There's no reliability there, and for me, I think we can't hold out with saying, well, it's alright because Jean-Philippe Gbamin will return next summer and then he's got the energy, he's got the agency, he's got what we need, because if anything, that just puts more pressure on Jean-Philippe Gbamin, which means he's more likely to rush his injury and return to injury and more likely to pick up another injury. So for me, I think we replace Jean-Philippe Gbamin in the same way as we replace Gylfi Sigurdsson, in the same ways that we bring in a creative midfielder, in the same ways that we bring in 2 wingers, and then Jean-Philippe Gbamin fights for his position back in this team. Sonny says, is there any news on Holgate's knock? Not so far, mate, but hopefully it is just an impact injury. Eugene says Everton need to drop Gylfi Sigurdsson and play Anthony Gordon. Again, I didn't have a massive issue with Anthony Gordon not starting yesterday's game, because I think it was more of a case of Carlo Ancelotti trying to protect him rather than dropping him. I think it was more of a case of Carlo Ancelotti resting him rather than dropping him as well. I think he starts on Thursday. He starts, absolutely necessarily starts on Thursday. He's proven yesterday that he's our most creative midfielder, and for a 19-year-old lad that's played a handful of Premier League games and only recently started to be consistently involved in the first team, that's embarrassing. Considering we've got a £50 million playmaker in the midfield, we've got a £30 million winger, we've got a Premier League winner, we've got, you know, all of these players in that centre midfield. We've got a player that's come over from Ukraine, played for Brazil with a lot of experience. It's embarrassing that a 19-year-old lad with a handful of Premier League caps is the best and the most creative out of a lot of them. But that's what it is, and that's, you know, that's credit to Anthony Gordon as much as it is embarrassing for the rest of the players. And for me, Anthony Gordon does start on Thursday. He starts as a necessity for me, and he starts on Sunday as well against Wolves. And ultimately, listen, you know, it would be ideal for Carlo Ancelotti to be able to ease Anthony Gordon into Premier League football and rest him here and there and you know, give him that time to ease in. But have we really got the tools and the capability to do that? I'm not too sure. James says Garner back for me in creative midfield, any cost, or to be another season just gone. Carlo knows he will get back, I'm sure. Felt sorry for Carlo, we will sort it. Me too. I don't think Garner will come back. I don't think he'd want to come back, but you're spot on. You know, Carlo Ancelotti needs backing. Dominic says that team didn't need changing though. You know, maybe it didn't. But listen, ultimately, I said this when I seen Tom Davies on the team sheet. I said it in the preview. My big worry with Tom Davies is I think he's an impact sub, and I think he's nothing more than that. And that might be a bit harsh, but I don't care. I really don't care. He's not good enough to play Premier League games, start Premier League games. He just gets lost. He doesn't know what he's doing. There was multiple times in the game yesterday where he's standing around, itching his head, looking around, not knowing where he needs to be. Tom Davies is good when he comes off the bench and he impacts games, because he's coming on against tired legs, playing against players that are at that sort of level, and he can use the ball well, he can use his neat footwork, when his job is literally to go out there and keep hold of the ball and neaten it up a little bit and just make sure we don't concede anything silly. He's good at doing that. He's not good at creating opportunities. He's not good at keeping a solid defensive line. He's not strong enough. He hasn't got the awareness. And that was always my issue. And you're right, it probably didn't need changing. I understand why Ancelotti changed it, but it's clear now that midfield four of Iwobi, Davis, Sigurdsson and Gomez cannot play again. They cannot start in the same team for Everton Football Club ever again. They're just not good enough. Sonny says, spot on Eugene, maybe Richie out wide and Moise Keane up top with DCL. Potentially. Hernandez says, Gomez looked like he had spent too much time with Schneiderlin yesterday. I will say that I was happy to see Keane at least show a bit of life. Yeah, spot on. And Jonathan says, I think Gomez is a good player but can't do both jobs. Needs a good player next to him. He does, and he can't do the running round. He simply can't. And ultimately, if we're going to need him to do the running round, then he's not good enough because he can't do it. Sonny says, all the remaining games are just wins if you want to get a chance at Europe. Spot on. Underground says, at least we won't get relegated. And Sonny says every club has a silver lining. Anyway, we'll get back into the live comments in just a second. We'll get back into talking about the game then. Yeah, listen, it was dreadful. It was utterly dreadful. It was embarrassing. It was poor yesterday, and I'm not going to dwell too much on it because I know that, you know, all we have to do is go out there and put a good performance in against Southampton on Thursday, and you know, then we get a little bit happier and you know, we start to build up a little bit more momentum and the feeling around the fan base is more positive. So I'm not going to sit here and be massively negative because ultimately, since Carlo Ancelotti come into the club, it has been very, very positive. You know, like I said, within the top 6 in the form table, a good return to the Premier League, only, you know, our first defeat after 2 good wins against Norwich and Leicester. But the big worry was, and always has been, and was in the game against Leicester and was in the game against Norwich, is that we always felt if we come up against the team here who've got a little bit more quality in the midfield than the sides that we're playing, or they've got a little bit more urgency or a little bit more want in the midfield, then we're going to struggle massively because our midfield just aren't up to scratch. And yesterday proved exactly what we've all known for months and months and months. And if anything, you know, if we can take any positives out of it, it's once again show Carlo Ancelotti that certain players in this squad aren't good enough to play in either certain positions or play whatsoever. And, you know, I really, really do hope that Carlo has looked at that, accepted that, and will address that in the summer, and I do believe he will. I've got 100% faith in Carlo Ancelotti, and like I said, I refuse to give any blame towards Carlo Ancelotti for yesterday's performance because I just don't think he's to blame. But you know, he needs to make those decisions in the summer then, and he needs to bring those players in because, like I said, yesterday I fell for the front two. I fell for Calvert-Lewin. I fell for Richarlison because although they didn't score, and again I've seen them come under a little bit of criticism, they had nothing. There was no feeds to them. There's no creativity. Nobody created anything for them, and although we'd love Dominic Calvert-Lewin to be this striker who picks the ball up on the halfway line and takes everybody on and creates his own opportunities, he's not. He needs those creative players around him. He needs the midfield to be at the top of their game in order for him to really, really blossom. Similarly with Richarlison. Again, the goal we conceded was very, very unlucky. Defensively yesterday, I thought we were okay, but Spurs didn't offer a threat. It's not like we were fantastic defensively. Spurs didn't offer anything. We didn't have to do anything. We conceded one very, very sloppy goal, and you know, some Evertonians might sit here and say it was an unlucky defeat. I'm not saying it was an unlucky defeat. The goal was unlucky to concede in the way that we conceded it, and defensively we were okay. Other than that freak situation, but it's not unlucky when you don't turn up and when you've got 70 minutes to find an equaliser and a winner against a side that really aren't all that great, and you just don't put in an effort and you just don't, you know, give a shit. But anyway, again, that's all I can really say about the game. There's not much I can delve into. We you know, our midfield was anonymous yesterday and has been anonymous for a lot of time this season and needs changing massively and needs improving massively because it just simply isn't good enough. And yet we go on to Southampton now on Thursday, and we need a big win. We need a massive, massive win on Thursday. This is a side that are in good form, a side that have got a lot of confidence, a lot of momentum behind them, a lot of good quality players. And again, like I said, they'll have watched that game yesterday and they'll have thought, all we have to do is hold the ball up in midfield and, you know, create opportunities, and we'll have a great chance against Everton because the midfielders simply don't want it. For me, like I said, we're doing the game preview a little bit later on. It'll be up tomorrow around about dinner time. So you'll see my predicted start 11. You'll see my thoughts on the game and the tactics that I think Carlo Ancelotti should adopt. But if we go into it with the same midfield as yesterday, I'm really not confident. Stewie says, alright mate, alright Wormy, what's happening Stewie? James says, all the way performances have been shocking for a long time before Carlo came in. Why get him if we haven't got money to back him, or we won't get another big name in the future? I bet he couldn't believe it. I think we will have the money to back him, I do, and I think we'll look to get rid of a lot of players this summer. Ultimately, listen, if you say to me, this summer we've got £20 million to spend, and I look at it and I go, right, okay, we need 2 centre midfielders, a right mid, a left mid, and ideally probably a centre back and maybe a right back as well. We're not going to get that with 20 million. If you sell a Sigurdsson for 10, 15 million, you'd add that to your transfer budget. If you sell a Delph for 7 million, you'd add that. If you sell a Walcott, you'd add that. Sell the players. Sell the players, because they're not good enough and there's no point in keeping them around for sentiment. They're not good enough, and if they're not good enough, move them on. If you're enjoying the scene, by the way, please do hit that like button. It does only take a second. If you're new to the channel as well, don't forget to subscribe. If you haven't checked out our instant match reaction and player ratings from yesterday, please feel free to do that after the live stream. If you're watching live, please share the video. Let's get as many people in here as possible. David says, if we get Gabriel and Sangare on 4-year contract for 32 million, that's 8 million we need to raise from sales to meet players. And more recitation for FFP, which we're really tight on. Where's the 8 million coming from? Sell Delph, Sigurdsson. Sell the players that aren't good enough that we need to sell. Wayne says, thought Moyes was far better when he come on last minute. Last time, a lot more composed. He had 10 more minutes. He might have scored. Yeah, I agree, and I briefly mentioned it earlier on in the live stream. Like I said, I thought Yerry Mina done fantastic when he come on. Defensively, he done really, really well. He was pushing the side forward. Same with Anthony Gordon. Good performance. But Moise Keane, I thought, done well. He was a lot more composed than he was when he come on against Leicester. A lot less erratic. He was taking the ball down. He was using his feet well. He got himself into a couple of good positions. He got a shot away as well, which was a good bit of play from him. So I agree. I thought he done well when he come on. Underground says, to be fair, Pickford has kept us in the game with decent saves. Well, again, that's why I give him a 6 in the player ratings. Spoiler. Because he wasn't at fault for anything. He looked erratic at times, don't get me wrong. He looked really erratic, which was worrying. He wasn't at fault for anything directly in regards to goals. But again, I know a lot of people have got sort of a chip on the shoulder as regards to Jordan Pickford and aren't his biggest fan. And, aren't really happy with his performances, but he's not an issue for me at the moment. He isn't. He might be an issue if we were fighting for the Champions League, if we were had a fantastic midfield and a fantastic front line, consistently scoring, a fantastic defence, and he was the only issue, I'd say, yeah, okay, there's an issue there with it which we need to address urgently, but ultimately he's not, and he's not the biggest issue with the team right now. So for me, I think we just stay away from it until we sort out the midfield, certainly. Wayne says, would only keep Dean, Mina, Holgate, Richie, DCL, Gordon from that team. Would F the rest off. We need a new keeper and 2 new centre midfielders, as Gomez is backup only. I think Gomez is a luxury player. He plays well in a side who, as long as he's got a player next to him who will do the horrible running around, dirty work. He won't do that dirty work. He won't do it. And as long as Gomez plays next to a player that doesn't do the dirty work, he won't look good, because he simply doesn't do enough. That's why he looked fantastic next to Idrissa Gana Gueye last season, because Garner would run around, he'd get involved, he'd throw the tackles in, he'd do the horrible work that needed to be done, really. Gomez doesn't do that, and he desperately needs a player next to him that does that. Otherwise, he just doesn't play well. Wormy says, Pickford is a proper P-Rex, little arms. Underground says, Bernard should probably be sold. Listen, I said it earlier on. I think I said it during the lockdown. Bernard, for me, has got till January to prove that he can put in consistent performances. If not, sell him. Wormy says, all need to go. Whole midfield is woeful. Abigail says, Southampton are going to have more energy than us. They will. Wayne says, a right back, another striker, one that's prolific, so we can drop Richie back would mean goals in the team. Again, I really wouldn't be looking at striker at the moment. Maybe once we've sorted the midfield out, yeah, but not at the moment for me. Underground says, Steve linked with PSG. Wormy says they can have him again. I'm not really fussed, whatever. Stewie says we should throw some youth in the midfield and let them show the others how it's done. I see where you're coming from, and I agree to an extent, but you have to sort of think, why hasn't youth been thrown into the midfield? Why isn't Dennis Adeniran getting a game? Why isn't Benny Beningame getting a game? There must be reasons for this, that these players mustn't be impressing in training, or they mustn't be fit, or they mustn't be ready, because I honestly can't see I honestly can't see Carlo Ancelotti looking at good young players coming through who are very talented and are ready to break into the Premier League and thinking they're not as good as Gylfi Sigurdsson and Andre Gomez. I can't see that. James says Gordon was really good, he stood up, the rest should be ashamed, especially the midfield. I agree. Wayne says on the plus side they're the £100 on Spurs. Underground says Davis lacks physicality and pace, he does. Stewie says Gordon should have started in my opinion because he played well. I agree. And Anders says, and of course Danny Ings will be up for it as usual. Southampton will be a tough match, they control the middle of the pitch if we go in with the same players. They will control the middle of the pitch if we go in. I agree. Sonny says, I think we need to start questioning Marcel Brands about the recruitment over the last 4 years. For me, he's got a big summer ahead of him to prove himself, and if he doesn't prove himself, then I will certainly be asking questions. Abigail says, I will sell, loan or keep all the start midfield from yesterday. It will be went during an injury. Wayne says, need to give a dinner and run out Sims and a few others to see what we've got. Hopefully one of them can step up and save us some money. Why can't we play Bernard centre mid? I just don't think he's consistent enough, to be honest, and I question whether he's good enough. Wayne says, or Holgate. Well, interesting you mentioned Holgate. We're going to talk about Holgate in the game preview to the Southampton game. That'll be up on the channel midday, 12 o'clock tomorrow. Doswick says, we never got rid of Gylfi. Heir apparent to Prince Uma. Stewie says, Bernard plays better in the centre of the field, so I agree we should play him there. He does, but will he be consistent there? And we don't play. And again, Bernard, I don't think Bernard would play well in this current midfield. This current midfield has got a massive demand on defending as well as attacking, and you know, I think if we played with a number 10 attacking midfielder, I think maybe you'd have a point with Bernard, but in this current midfield, I just don't know whether he'd be able to play well. James says, hit the like button. Thank you very much, James. Yeah, Tottenham were just as bad as us, our chance, but not manager's faults. They had it too easy. Spot on. Dominic says Sigurdsson's legs have gone. Dosbick says, we don't have money, we'll have to content ourselves mostly with what we have. Fair point. Wayne says, which sick note Delph make a recovery and start instead of the kids, Benny? Well, listen, if he does start, he can't be any worse than the players that are currently starting. If you're enjoying the scene, by the way, so far, please do hit that like button. It does only take a second. If you're new to the channel, don't forget to subscribe as well. James says, big chances, I think, and need it. Why we got this man in. Wayne says, how good is Don Carlo, though? Gets the results without a decent centre midfielder in the squad. Exactly. Sustainable Shooter says, I'm Spurs and we weren't as good. We weren't good at all. You guys should have capitalised on how bad we were, then could have pushed in for Europe. Plus, I don't want Europe anyway. Would rather have no Europe than Europe. There you go. There's a Spurs fan honestly turning around there and saying, we were poor yesterday. We were shocking and you should have made the most of it. And it frustrates me so much as an Everton fan sitting here saying they were dreadful. We were dreadful, don't get me wrong. I said in the intermatch reaction, it's almost like we said to them, oh, you're going to be shit. Well, we'll be even more shit just to one up you. But they were poor yesterday. When he says Don was poor though in the game, won't ever rip his work rate, but some of his decision making was poor, fair enough. Wayne says Frank Kessie is what we need, a beast that scores goals potentially. Jem says, hi Cam, hi Jem, I hope you're doing well. William says we could have put a wheelie bin in the midfield with a jersey on, and he would have been better than Sigurdsson. Jem says, no mate, our midfield is way too slow with Gomez and Sigurdsson and Davis in there. It's going to be the same till we sign a mobile box-to-box midfielder. I agree, Jem, I really do. James says we need cannon players on the ball. We ain't got a Lukaku to tag us through games. Spot on. James says a ball winner. Indeed, he'd be nice. He would, but he wouldn't come. James says under 23s would give 100% every game. These overpaid lovies piss me off. They would. Again, you know, I contradict myself because I sit here and say, well, are they good enough? But ultimately, the players that are playing in the first team aren't good enough. So it's like sitting here saying, well, would the under 23s be good enough if they were coming in and given an opportunity? Well, whether they're good enough or not, the current team that are playing aren't good enough. So it doesn't make much of a difference. Gulto says, hey Cam, late to the live stream, the started our record since 2015, being behind at half time and no wins in 47 is embarrassing. It tells you everything you need to know what is wrong. Spot on. Whammy says, what's the ball, Cam? Jem says, haha, well, Defo more than Sigurdsson. He overworks by marking pointlessly when it doesn't matter. I agree. Whammy says, on a positive, Ancelotti has good video footage if the board aren't convinced the midfielders clowns. He does have good video footage, you're right. Where are we? James says, I'd be happy to see Holgate and Gordon in centre midfield next game. Again, interesting, you should say that. James says, spot on there. Calm on midfield is oblivious. The problem is obviously the problem, sorry. We've known it for a while. What is going on with Brands? Kabam, the only addition in the area, which is still light, and especially now. Spot on. Mike says, supporting the Toffees causes much wriggling of hands, Cam. That's just I don't even realise I do that, but I do it. James says Gbamin looking like he's made of glass. James says you could see on Carlo's face how we are shocking from both teams in the game. Yeah, you're spot on. And again, listen, Carlo Ancelotti showed yesterday that I think a lot of his facial expressions showed that, you know, he's struggling to get a tune out of this team at the best of times, and it was, you know, it was a struggle to beat Leicester, it was a struggle to beat Norwich, but, you know, yesterday was poor, it really was. Good Soul says, oh, hang on, I've just had to refresh the page, sorry, because the comment section was a little bit broken. Bear with me 2 seconds while I get the comment section back up. If you're enjoying the stream, by the way, please do hit that like button. Does only take a second. Where are we then? Good Soul says it was never going to be a quick fix, but I've total trust in Carlo. Doesn't matter if you had Pep, Klopp or whoever, it would take time. We have a real lack of quality in the midfield. Even they gave in. Exactly. And when he says, I will get a laugh out of you one day, Cam. You're too damn professional at the like, guys. Thank you very much. Anyway, yeah, listen, just to summarise the game briefly, we were poor. We were really poor, and we were poor in positions that we know we need to improve on massively. Centre midfield is urgent, needs urgent work on it, and right mid and left mid I think needs urgent work on it as well, and ultimately, unfortunately, we're going to have to put up with what we've got until the end of the season, and that means that we're probably going to struggle in games against your likes of Sheffield United, who have got good midfielders who control the ball, Wolves, who have got good midfielders who control the ball, and that means that we need to do as much as possible to get results in games like Thursday against Southampton and when we play Bournemouth and Villa, etc. Because, you know, we need massive changes in the summer, and yesterday proved it. Overall, a poor performance by Everton, a lack of desire, a lack of fight, a lack of effort, and really disappointing and embarrassing performance from the midfield, and something needs to change. But I'm not going to blame Carlo Ancelotti, because again, you know, he can't physically go out there and start in the midfield himself, although we'd all like him to. He can't do it, and ultimately the players that he put out there should have been good enough to get a result out of yesterday's game, and through their lack of effort and interest, didn't. Anyway, that's going to do it for today's live stream. If you have enjoyed, please do hit that like button. It does only take a second. If you're new to the channel, don't forget to subscribe as well. Like I said, we'll be back midday tomorrow with the Southampton preview, so don't forget to check that out on the channel. We'll also have an opposition preview from Dan over from the Saints View Southampton channel as well. That'll be going up around 5 o'clock, so don't forget to check that one out as well. Massive game on Thursday. Need to bounce back with a win and hopefully a good performance as well. Listen, I'll take a win, because a win's a win all day, but I want us to go out and actually control a game of football, show that we can be dominant, show that we can be good on the ball, show that we can control the ball. I don't want to, well, again, like I said, I'm not really asked as long as we win the game, but ideally I don't want us to scrape a win or for us to be holding on in the last 10 minutes. I want us to go out and go, right, okay, bish bash bosh, 3-0 up within the first half an hour, game over, sorted, and hopefully we can do that on Thursday. It won't be an easy game. They're a very good side. Like I said, we'll talk more about it in tomorrow's preview, but ultimately we need to do a lot better than we done yesterday, because yesterday's game was an absolute shambles. If you're enjoying the streams and the videos so far, please do hit that like button. It does only take a second. If you're new to the channel, don't forget to subscribe as well. Subscribers have been flying up recently, so a big thanks to everybody for that. We're getting so close to 1,900 now, which means a massive amount to me. Big thanks to everybody for getting in the live comments. Really do appreciate all of the support. If you're watching as a YouTube video, leave your thoughts in the comment section down below, and I'll get involved with as many of them as possible. Ewan says Captain Coleman on seizing the chance to learn from the best. Stewie says, catch you all later. Let's hope we can get a result on Thursday. I hope so. Stu and Solly says, would you have Weston McKennie from Schalke? I would. Wim says, take care, guys. Thank you very much. He says, wasn't Carlo a midfielder when he played? He was. He probably could do a job. You're right. Wim says he was fuming in the interview. James says, I'm not worried because I have total... I think it'll be a totally different team mindset next season. Carlo needs help on the pitch too. Spot on. Dosbrick says, ask Dan about Højbjerg. I might have asked him a little bit on my opposition preview, which is on the Saints View. Check that out. Wayne says, nice one, Cam. Have a good week. Take it easy. Thank you very much. James says, cheers, Cam, lad. Thank you very much, James. You need to see about the toffees, a big 3 points. And James says, be lovely to control a game and win, you're right, mate. Exactly, it would. Anyway, if you've enjoyed today's live stream, please do hit that like button. It does only take a second. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel. Like I said, we'll be back tomorrow midday with the live game. Sorry, it's not live, with the game preview to the Southampton game. Hopefully we can go out and bounce back with a win. Please leave a like if you've enjoyed, subscribe if you're new, and we'll see you soon on the Mighty Blues.